I was asking my father how he grew up. They were 5 brothers. So I asked my father, how was it to have one room, sharing one room with 5 brothers? And they had one cupboard. And each had one shelf. For Christmas, they got the fruit. Each one of them had a fruit. And during winter time, because it was very cold, for sleeping, they had a leaf bag. It was really just a big bag with leaves in it to keep them warm. And when he told me how it was, he never complained. He never complained. So it was as it was. And they became very resilient. When I came back, I worked in a retirement home. And I asked the elderly ones how they grew up, how it was to have children, to arrange. Actually, it was arranging the survival. During wartime, working, family life, and they never complained. So sometimes when people come to the temple to re-examine what's going on, I'm very sorry, because more and more people, they don't know what to do. And that's very sad. So even nowadays, our life seems very comfortable. But I hear a lot of complaining. And many don't know what to do. And they suffer. It's almost, it became too comfortable, too safe. And people become depressed. Young people, young women, and young men, they don't know what to do. when I asked them, what do you want to become? They don't know. What do you want to do in life? They don't know. It looks like they have no dreams, no goals. And when you have no goals and no dreams, you have no vision. And when you have no vision, you're stuck in the past. And the blaming is growing. Many people are blaming me because I make decisions. When I was in the monastery, I was the only foreigner, and it wasn't allowed to speak English. So I could learn Japanese quicker. And it was very rough. And even sometimes with physical punishment. And working all day long. And try to survive each day. It was a rough place to be. Mentally and physically. But it was my choice. Or at least I thought it was my choice. Who really knows? But still, when I was in the monastery, there were many, many rules, and I couldn't change any rule. So I couldn't change the outside at all. But that was a very good training. Because at the beginning, every day, in the evening, when we had to meditate outside in the cold and looking at the stars. And actually, the novices were praying and looking at the stars. Because we didn't know how to cope. We couldn't change outside. And inside was a big mess. So I remember my friend and I, we were the last one who could go back to bed to have some sleep for some hours. When we're shivering from the cold and looking at the stars. We were really praying, wishing upon a star. But we didn't know actually clearly what we were wishing for. But somehow we did. And never ever did I hear a monk brother complaining or blaming his seniors, because his seniors the senior of the senior goes way back more than 2,000 years. You cannot blame history. So what's going on? So every evening we decided not to run away. But why? For what? Enlightenment? Oh, that's a far, far away fantasy. You give up enlightenment very quickly. But somehow we stayed. And we decided, each one of us, I stay. Even if I don't know really why. The alternative was just go out. And the hardship would be finished in an instant. But then what you do? You carry this leather bag around. And the nights were very lonely. Just sitting there and watching, wishing upon a star. We knew the hardship would not end in the next morning. But somehow we decided, okay, just let's try another day. Let's take another day. Let's take these 3 hours of sleep. And I also, of course, encountered racism. But there was no reason to blame, because I could walk away, could have walked away anytime. But somehow I didn't. Life is suffering. Old age, sickness, and a lot of troubles. Can you blame the universe? Can you blame God? Because we are all oppressed by death. We are all equal, but equal before what? Equal before God. That means equal before death. When I was contemplating in the night, we had to meditate in the graveyard. Why me? Why do I have to die? My 3-year-old son now asks me, do I have to die as well? I said, yes. And me too. Yes. That's how it goes. And he's very comfortable at the moment. So God is everywhere. But it's not waiting for you. But I remember in the nighttime, at the beginning, I had to decide clearly that I will take another 30 minutes, another night. I will take another day. So at that instant, the whole universe was swallowed by me, and I didn't spit anything out, and still chewing. When winter came and we only had these robes, it was very, very cold, barefoot, with some straw sandals, going to the alms round, picking out the pebbles from the street. They are stuck in the foot. So in the evening, you had to pick them out of the flesh. And we knew tomorrow morning, we had to put on the straw sandals again. And at one night, I remember clearly, when I was laying and watching the stars, I remember the dream I had when I was a little boy. I must have been about 5 or 6 years old. And I remember I was laying at my bed. And the night came, the darkness. And I was very afraid. And I could feel how the darkness was pulling me. And when I closed my eyes, and opened them. It was just dark. And when I closed my eyes again, I could just see. It was like a storm of snowflakes. Maybe the young guys don't know anymore. It was like an old television. When there wasn't a signal, it was very black and white storm. And that happens a lot with the old televisions. So, and I was very scared because this blizzard, this chaos was pulling me. And somehow I knew when it pulls me down, I'm lost. I will gonna die. So I was really scared. And somehow I focused. And I squeezed. It was like I was squeezing my whole soul and being. And focusing on one spot. I was kind of fighting for my life. And when I had to pull myself together, suddenly a red line appeared. And this red line was shooting straight forward. I was surprised. And when I let go of the focus, this red line started to swirl, move around. So I had to focus again to keep this red line shooting forward in a unmoving direction. And slowly I could relax, but still keep the focus. And somehow I fell asleep. And the next morning, I remember I had to convince my mother that I didn't pee in the bed because it was so wet, because I was sweating. So I remembered this dream when I was in the monastery. And this dream never left me. We have to make many decisions. And sometimes we don't know the consequences. And it needs a lot of courage to decide for yourself when you have to decide for the family. But you only can decide when you know what you want, or when you are pulled in a certain direction. It needs a lot of re-examination, and we have hardly time. We have a lot of business to do. The kids won't let you have a rest. But still, we are made to do that. And we will fail many, many times. But if we are not making decisions, we are not using our meaning of life, and it becomes weak. And then we become fragile and are afraid. And we are afraid to take on responsibility. So in Japan, in the monastery, we had a stick, and the novices got beaten anytime when they fell asleep during meditation. And after the beating, we had to bow and say thank you. And later on, when the new novices came, I had to do the beating. And suddenly you understood the responsibility. Because it was an encouragement and not a punishment. In a very archaic form. But maybe death at the end is not a punishment. The impermanence is not the punishment. When the young people come to the temple, I'm surprised because they jump into the unknown. And that's good when you're young. And when you're young, you don't know what to do. It doesn't matter, just do. Do stuff. But they're afraid, and that's not good. When I was young, I could hardly wait to go out into the world. And do stuff. Conquer. Conquer the universe. And the middle-aged people, many don't know where they belong to. And that's sad. Because after a while, it's not about you anymore. They're afraid to take on responsibility, to become a father, to become a mother, to become a teacher. Because this is the only remedy. And one guy asked me, but I have no family. What shall I do? Because it doesn't make sense. I don't know what to do. But this, what I'm doing, is not fulfilling. And usually they have good jobs, a lot of money. But still, it's not fulfilling. And I remember the last meditation week. There was a young man. He was a sleeping beauty and a Peter Pan. And this middle-aged guy. And whenever there was a task to do, I put them together. And slowly, a son and a father was born. And the young guy made a huge progress. The middle-aged guy made a huge progress. And at the end of the retreat, the older guy said, well, whenever I meet a younger one, a junior, I also represent the lost father. And the young man, at the end of the retreat, he told me, well, it feels good to make a decision. So sometimes you can change the outside. Sometimes you cannot change. Either way, the Logos, your wisdom, is working very clearly. So if you would ask me, how can you swallow the whole universe and spit nothing out?